Hi, welcome to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brie. I'm a doctor of psychology, financial educator, astrologer, and founder of Forecasting for Success, a community of people improving their financial literacy to achieve financial independence. I blend my expertise as a former professor and financial intelligence analyst with the tool of astrology to help break down why you are struggling with specific money habits and the best way to form more intentional responses and choices when it comes to money, especially to help you feel more secure in your financial decisions and improve your money skills for building long-term wealth. Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. I hope you're having a gentle start to the new year. I took a much longer break at the end of last year than anticipated. I unfortunately developed an eye infection for the first time, which is not conducive to making online content. Although some of you listen to this podcast via audio platforms, every episode is also uploaded onto YouTube where others listen and or watch the episodes. So I had to take a longer break to allow my eye to heal. So it's good to be back, and I'm excited to be making up-to-date episodes again. This is also why I emphasize the importance of having an emergency fund, because you never know or can anticipate something happening that can affect your income or requires a sudden large payment. So today's episode is going to provide you with the current Venus transits for this coming week, and I'll review why creating and keeping your emergency fund is so vital, which is ironically timely now that the holidays have ended, and many of us may need to focus on ensuring that we have our emergency funds topped up. Today, Venus remains in the sign of Capricorn, which is supportive energy to shore up the cornerstones of your finances, like ensuring your emergency fund remains on track and you have decided what your sinking fund should include for 2026. Venus is also currently conjunct the Sun and Mars, which is an excellent time for being creative and for manifestation. Be careful about overspending or biting off more than you can chew, but go all in on imagining what this year will look like for you and your goals. Get as specific as possible on what you want to achieve, what you want your life to look like, what you want to be different between now and the end of the year, and remember to realign your values as needed to accomplish your goals and dreams. This conjunction is meant to help you be both creative and resilient. Remember to also be specific, not only with your values, but how to take action with what you want to accomplish. Break out necessary steps and how you will action each step. This helps your goals to not only be realistic, but purposeful, which will come in handy as Neptune and Saturn move back into the sign of Aries soon, which will continue to flesh out in the weeks ahead. Now, let's discuss something that sounds simple, but is genuinely one of the most powerful financial tools you can have, your emergency fund. If the holidays stretched you financially, or if you dipped into savings to get through the end of the year, or if you've never really understood why people are so serious about having an emergency fund in the first place, then this episode is for you. An emergency fund isn't about being overly cautious or pessimistic, and it's not about expecting things to go wrong. An emergency fund is about giving yourself stability, agency, and peace of mind in an unpredictable world. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why emergency funds matter far beyond just saving money, how not having one creates second and third order financial stress, since things can quickly domino in an emergency situation, why using your emergency fund isn't a failure, it's actually a success, and exactly how to start or rebuild one in a realistic and non-overwhelming way this year. So what does an emergency fund really do for you? When most people hear emergency fund, they usually picture a vague financial rule, save 3 to 6 months of expenses. But that framing can miss the bigger picture. An emergency fund isn't just a random pile of money. It's a buffer between you and financial chaos. So let's talk about what that actually means in real life. First, an emergency fund reduces anxiety, even when nothing is going wrong. One of the most underestimated benefits of an emergency fund is psychological safety. When you know you have money set aside, you can sleep better, you're less reactive when something unexpected happens, and you can make clearer decisions because you're not operating from panic if you do encounter an emergency. Research consistently shows that financial stress is one of the top sources of chronic anxiety, and it's not always tied to income, it's tied to financial resilience. Two people can make the same amount of money, but the one with an emergency fund experiences dramatically less stress. And why is that? Because uncertainty feels different when you know that you can handle it. And second, emergencies are usually inconvenient, not necessarily dramatic. When people think of an emergency, they imagine extreme scenarios. But most emergencies are actually mundane, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Things like a car repair, a medical bill, an unexpected travel expense, a job disruption, or a rent increase, or family obligations that you didn't plan for. And these aren't actually rare events, they're usually inevitable over time. The difference between financial stability and financial stress often comes down to whether these moments turn into temporary inconveniences or long-term setbacks. An emergency fund keeps small problems from becoming big ones. And without an emergency fund, every surprise could become debt. And this is one of the most important points, and one many people may not have fully connected yet. When you don't have an emergency fund, you don't avoid an emergency, you simply finance them differently. And that usually means using credit cards, personal loans, buy now, pay later structures, going into medical debt, or trying to borrow from family or friends under very stressful circumstances. And that's where second and third order consequences begin. It's when you're forced to pay for an unexpected or unanticipated event and then do not have the financial resources to pay for routine or anticipated costs, which is how debt may begin to pile up. Let's go deeper into the hidden costs of not having an emergency fund and these ripple effects. When you don't have an emergency fund, a single expense can derail your entire budget, like falling behind on rent or utilities, or groceries becoming stressful instead of routine. The interest on any accumulated debt also compounds quickly, which is often what keeps people in debt long term. Financial stress can spill into your relationships as well, and you'll continue to make reactive decisions instead of strategic ones, which can also compound issues over time. Emergency funds give you breathing room, and without them, life feels like constant financial triage. Another important point is that emergency funds can also protect your long term goals. Because without one, you may pull from your retirement accounts, you could delay investing altogether, you may stop contributing to long term goals, which means you can undo months or years of financial progress. But when you have one, emergencies stay contained so they can quickly go from your present to your past, allowing your future plans to stay intact. Short-term stress doesn't have to sabotage your long-term wealth. Remember that the one thing no one can buy is time, and that's the real value of maintaining an emergency fund. So, how do you build or rebuild your emergency fund? First, start with a realistic goal. You do not need 3 to 6 months immediately. In fact, research in behavioral finance shows that early wins matter more than ideal future targets. Start with working towards $500, $1,000, or 1 month of essential expenses. That amount alone can cover most common emergencies and dramatically reduce stress. Use this early momentum and financial win to work towards 3 to 6 months of essential expenses in the future. Second, open a high yield savings account. This is a critical step because your emergency fund needs to be liquid or easily accessible if or when there is an emergency. It needs to be separate from your monthly spending money, and it needs to be easy to access, but not too easy to drain casually. A high yield savings account keeps your emergency fund distinct from other funds. It earns more interest than a traditional savings account and reinforces the psychological boundary that this money has a very specific purpose. If your emergency fund is just sitting in a regular checking account, it will likely disappear quickly and not be earning you compound interest, which helps you reach your savings goal more quickly. This separation creates protection. Next, automate small, consistent contributions. The fastest way to build an emergency fund is not intensity, it's consistency. So this can look like $25 a week, $50 per paycheck, or $100 a month. These amounts are unremarkable individually, but it's powerful over time. It really will add up so that you reach your goal even if you begin with small amounts. Automation also removes decision fatigue and emotional friction, meaning you do not need to feel motivated every week when you allow the system you create to do the work for you. Remember to use it when you do need it and then rebuild it after. Another important mindset shift for many people is that an emergency fund is cyclical, it's not static. So you build it, you use it, and then you rebuild it. That's normal, and there's no shame or guilt in this cyclical system. What matters is returning to the habit as soon as you're financially able to. It's not about maintaining a perfect balance all the time. And emergency funds aren't about fear, they're actually about freedom. Freedom from panic, freedom from debt spirals, and freedom from feeling one problem away from a crisis. An emergency fund gives you real options, peace of mind, and protects your time, which is invaluable. If you're starting from zero, you're not late or too late. And if you're rebuilding, you're not behind. You don't need perfection to start. You just need to take action to begin now and protect your future self and your future goals. If you're ready to go deeper, I invite you to take my free financial personality quiz. It'll give you a personalized step-by-step money plan tailored to you and where you are presently, with actionable resources to keep you on track. The link is in the show notes. You deserve to feel safe, supported, and confident with your money. Thank you for being here with me today, and I'll talk to you next week. I want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Forecasting for Success and let you know that you can read the transcript for each podcast episode on my website, which is linked below in the show notes. I've also included the link to send me your money questions if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. And if you're ready to get started on improving your financial literacy and developing your own personalized money plan, I encourage you to join my Forecasting for Success community, where I teach you everything you need to know about budgeting, how to choose your retirement number, how to invest in the stock market, and so much more. I go live in the community each month to check in on your progress and help answer any questions you may have. And it's a supportive community where you can also check in with other members and learn from their experiences as well. I hope you take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.